Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us at PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us at 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside the great Paul Brettel from Packers Wire and Dairyland Express. Paul, how you been doing coming off this big win here with the Chiefs, man?
Hey, I'm excellent. Packers are rolling. Happy to talk about it.
It's a lot easier to talk about it right now, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
I'm telling you, we made it through some dark times, and I know some of the 80s, 70s, and 80s fans are sitting there going, whatever, what are you talking about, dark times? But wanted to kind of start off, Paul, with getting your take on the Chiefs game. You know, we hadn't got a chance to talk yet. I'm sure you were just as excited as we were. I love to always try to ask you, hey, what was the press box like? Was there any shouting up there? But you always just tote the company line and say it was very professional, so we're going to skip right by that. What was your takeaway from the Chiefs game, man?
I mean, what stood out to me the most on offense, and there was obviously a number of things that we could talk about, but the versatility that this team has was on full display. And thinking back to training camp, one of the aspects that stood out to me between the tight ends being able to play in line, slot. I mean, we've seen throughout the season, Musgrave and Kraft are playing out wide as well. We know A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones in the run game. Aaron Jones specifically will line up in the slot, sometimes out wide. The receivers, you know, they'll move around from one side of the formation to the other, inside out. So just thinking back to training camp, I remember having that thought of, man, there just feels like there's endless combinations, possibilities for what Matt LaFleur can do with these guys. And we saw quite a bit of that on display against the Kansas City Chiefs, from just the variety of personnel groupings they used to the number of formations, the motion that they used. I saw a stat, I can't remember where it was from, but I think it was like 61% of the Packers snaps were had motion involved within it. So again, it was just obviously a huge aspect of it. And again, you see that versatility that this offense possesses on full display. And I know I've probably mentioned it previously, but that illusion of complexity, it's the buzzword I go back to because Matt LaFleur used it a ton when he first got here. Like, that's what that is. That's what we saw on Sunday personifies, you know. And in short, how Matt LaFleur has defined that in the past is it's being able to run a wide variety of plays from just a few personnel groupings. So you're able to create mismatches with that, and also running plays that look similar kind of out the gate, or maybe what you do pre-snap, but end up quite different. And again, keeping the defense off balance. So we saw that element of the LaFleur offense, you know, truly on display. All of that motion that they utilized was really, that's a great
You like that?
comment. But all that motion, all that motion that they utilized, you know, that helped negate some of the, or take away some of the bite from the Kansas City pressures. We talked about that last week. 6th highest blitz rate in football. But when you're moving guys around the formation as frequently as the Packers were, and it wasn't always just, you know, one guy moving from one side to the other. You know, Wicks went back and forth on a couple different snaps, you know, prior to the ball being hiked. There was again a concerted effort to get design touches behind the line of scrimmage for Reed, for Christian Watson. And those elements take away some of the bite from a team that's as heavy blitzing as the Kansas City Chiefs are. So I thought from LaFleur's perspective, in terms of what he dialed up, the eye candy, the chaos, confusion that he caused before the balls even snapped, I thought was excellently done. And going to his post-game press conference, and being asked about, that element, a lot of it comes down to just the trust that has been built up with Jordan Love, with the receivers, with the young tight ends, to be able to go out there and execute on that. Because it's obviously easy to say that, why don't we just do that earlier in the season? Why wasn't that a bigger part of what this offense was during the 4-game losing streak when things were struggling? Those are added responsibilities. And as we know, early on in the season, a lot of these guys weren't executing on their job description duties, like the things that you have to do each snap in order for the play to be effective. So if you're not effective, if you're not consistent in handling your basic, and quote unquote, lack of a better term, basic job responsibilities, a coach isn't going to all of a sudden add more to your plate and say, all right, go do this now too. And this, like, you kind of got to check some boxes. And I feel that especially over this last month, as this offense has progressed and Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, all of these guys are better handling what their, specific duties are. All right, let's add a little bit more to your plate, a little bit more to your plate. And that's something that Stenavich, LaFleur all talked about during training camp in terms of how do you manage a playbook with such a young offense. First, you got to, implement the basics. You figure out what they can do, what they're really good at. You try to put them in those situations. And once they show that they can handle those responsibilities, you add more to their plate. And I feel like on Sunday, that's what we saw. That was the true versatility that this offense possesses on display. And it's in part because of their growth, or it's definitely in part of their growth, and just the trust that Matt LaFleur has in this group right now to know that they're going to go out there and execute it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said, man. For those of you on the pod, if you're wondering what me and Paul were giggling at here, like a couple of buffoons, Paul Robertson in the chat said my versatility is on full display when I'm at the buffet. I relate to that. I'm just being honest. You guys see me
very relatable.
Yeah, Mandy threw a little charcuterie, a little kickoff charcuterie board together for me, so I'm gonna be munching it. This, if you're expecting professionalism on this particular program, you're in the wrong place. Other than when Paul's here for a few minutes. So let's see here. Chris Ham with the super chat, appreciate you, buddy. Says, "What's up, Packers Nation? Huge, go Pack, go!" Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, Paul. Let me ask you about the injuries, man. I know there's been a lot of news kind of break today. I don't think I know, at least when I finished kind of prepping for the show, I hadn't seen the exact injury report, if you will, although I don't even know if I should release today, right? It's probably already dropped, I imagine, here recently, but I know some details came out on like Aaron Jones, Christian Watson. What stood out to you on the injury front right off the bat?
Yeah, so big one, Aaron Jones is back practicing in a limited fashion. And I do, like, if we're trying to read the timeline, and obviously things can change throughout the course of this injury, but after that Chargers game when Jones suffered the injury, Matt LaFleur said that IR wasn't, they didn't think they would have to place him on IR. Obviously they didn't. And as we know, if a player's on IR, he has to miss 4 games. So this would be the third game that he would have to be out. So I think this would be perhaps the first opportunity for him to be back out there. However, based on how they've brought him along before, I'm going to guess that this might be a ramp-up week. And then the following week might be when we see him out there. And again, that's just me, total guesswork on this, but obviously good news that he's back out there, at least in some capacity. So we'll see how he trends Friday and Saturday. Other interesting note, Eric Stokes still on IR, but he was a full participant. Darnell Savage came off of injured reserve last week, and he was a full participant in all 3 practices. So something to watch this week to see if Eric Stokes, dealing with that hamstring injury, gets back out on the field on Monday night. And keep in mind, as the Packers did the first time against Denver, like his only responsibilities were on special teams in order to work him back in. Because remember, he hasn't really played a full game or close to it since week 9 of last season. Like, this injury set him back from that original return from the big injury that he suffered. So I don't see them changing course, or all of a sudden Eric Stokes is going to be, out on the field, for defensive snaps, or I can't imagine at least that many. I think his primary role is going to continue to be on special teams. Another big one at linebacker, Quay Walker did not practice. Ooh. All we know right now is Matt LaFleur said that was an injury that he did sustain during Sunday's game. So something to keep our eyes on moving forward. And that linebacker combo of him and Devondre Campbell, unfortunately, just haven't been able to play too many snaps together this season. Eric Wilson, Isaiah McDuffie, as we know, have been able to fill in well. And then Christian Watson did not practice either. Watson said in the locker room, I think you alluded to it, Clayton, that he doesn't think that this hamstring injury is in terms of time that he's going to be out is going to keep him out like the last one, which was 3 games that he missed. But there's still, that's still up in the air at this point. He doesn't sound like he expects to be out there for Monday night though. So Packers perhaps are going to be without Christian Watson at that point. So I would say those are the big ones on the list. Devondre Campbell was a limited participant, but coming off an injury, Rashawn Gary, Elton Jenkins, they've been listed previously. So the ones that we went through, and then Jair Alexander, a limited participant again. I'll be honest, I don't know what to expect from him if he's going to be available or not. I thought if he was going to be back, I thought that last week might be that time. And that didn't happen as he's working his way through that shoulder injury. So we'll just have to continue to keep our eyes on that one as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been kind of a hit or miss there with Jair. And I know I heard Jason Wilde and Mark Towser talking about it earlier today. They kind of feel like there may be a little something there behind the scenes going on, just, other than the injury. It was, kind of taking a shot in the dark there. We don't want to create any kind of rumors, but I thought that was an interesting comment there. But yeah, it's just it's kind of odd. It felt like last week, hey, it looks like we're going to get Jair back, and then last second he wasn't there. So that's the name of the game though when you get into December football, right? I mean, it's a tough sport. So when we go into into Giants Stadium there, or MetLife Stadium, whatever you want to call it, on Monday night, Paul. I mean, for a 6-6 team, I don't know if you can think of a better definition of a trap game, right? I mean, this is one of the teams that's playing the worst. Their front seven has been bad with Lawrence out of the lineup, obviously. Quarterback right now, it was a bit of a carousel once Daniel Jones went down with the injury. At the same time, in any given Sunday, right? So let's just start off on the offensive side of the ball. What do you think the keys to beating the Giants are on the offensive side of the ball come Monday night on Monday Night Football there in New York?
I'm going to go down a path here of talking about the run game, and that, I mean, we can always say that's a key, but reason I want to discuss it is because I want to see this offense continue to build upon the success that they've had. Like, this run game has been much improved over the last month compared to what it was, but there's still room to go as well. It's not as if they're ripping off, these 10, 12, 14-yard runs consistently either. There's room for growth in that category. But reason outside of that, for the game specifically, the Giants are allowing 4.8 yards per rush this season. That ranks 30th in the NFL. Teams have been able to run on their defense. And I think that Chiefs game is a prime example of what the trickle down effect of the run game can do for the Packers offense. Again, even if it's not these huge chunk gains, AJ Dillon, I think averaged like 4.1, 4.2 yards per rush, but it keeps them out of those, dangerous second and third and long situations. It sets up play action. I wrote about this over at Packers Wire. Jordan Love the last month has been just lights out off of play action. He leads the NFL in total yards over the last 5 games off of play action. I believe he's top 5 in completion percentage off of play action. Like, he's averaging almost 10 yards per attempt off of play action. Like, he's just been super, super effective, super, super consistent. And so having that run game element obviously helps set up those opportunities for that. Just opens up opportunities in general for the passing game. And as we look at, one of the strengths of where this Giants defense is, it's Kayvon Thibodeau, that opportunity for him to get after. I think he has 11 sacks this season already, and he primarily lines up at left tackle. So that's going to be Rasheed Walker. That's going to be Yosh Nijman if they continue on with that rotation. So having that run game to lean on, I asked Elton Jenkins about that after the game. We talk about what it does for the quarterback, the receivers, but I said, what does that do for the offensive line when you guys are able to move guys, when you guys are having that success? He said, one, wears the defense down, as we all know, but it takes away some of their bite from those pass rush opportunities. If the defense can't just, 3rd and 10, know a pass is coming, pin its ears back, there's a little bit of, that split second of identifying, I'm going to use hesitation for lack of a better term. And obviously that benefits the offensive line. So just a massive trickle down effect to the rest of this offense. So on the offensive side of the ball, Giants have struggled to stop the run this season. Packers are slowly gaining some momentum in that category. I want to see them be able to continue to do that, because if they can, as we've seen from Jordan Love, this receivers in the last couple of weeks, I think the opportunity is going to be there then for them in the passing game.
Got it. Yeah, Thibodeau, obviously a high round pick there. They're looking to see him kind of be that edge rusher of the future. I'm so glad we got Arizpal. My goodness, having Rashawn Gary out there and what they're doing, just creating pressures just across the whole front. You could tell that Goody has built this defense kind of with the intent of, look, we're going to get after the passer first and foremost. Well, we're going to worry about the run second. I think at times, I think there's probably a little bit in LaFleur going, I wish we wouldn't have went that far in that direction. But in games like that with the Chiefs where they just can't help but pass more than they run, man, it really played right into the Packers' defensive strength. And on that note, going into New York, what do you think the keys will be on defense? You mentioned Quay Walker had an injury pop up. It's been kind of this steady rotation of guys, with Jair being out consistently, although the young guys are kind of creating a little bit of continuity, obviously, there in the secondary. We're going to get after the passer. There's no doubt about that. But what do you think might be the keys to victory there against the Giants? Whether we're winning or losing, what do you think globally we're looking at there?
So the big thing that's going to have my attention is, how does Joe Barry come out and defend this Giants defense? Because this game, this opponent, it could, to me, if the proper adjustments aren't made, could go down similarly to the Steelers game, where the plan in that game should have been, all right, we got to take away the run. If Kenny Pickett beats us over the top, hits a few shots, I guess you tip your hat and you say, hey, nice throw. I want to see and obviously the Packers, they didn't take that approach nearly as much as in that game, but I want to see them, if they make that shift, if they go more all in towards all right, we need to try to slow down Saquon Barkley, force this Giants pass offense into those obvious passing downs. As you mentioned, Clayton, their pass protection unit has really struggled to keep Tommy DeVito clean while he's been under center. But you want to put the game, I know he's definitely had some impressive moments, but you want to put the game on his arm. This is a run defense that's shown that they can still be ripped apart this season. I think 3 games of 200 plus yards. Saquon Barkley at this point in his career still has that ability to do that to opponents. So for me, I want to see that adjustment from Joe Barry. I want to see them with a true effort to say, this is what we're coming into the game to take away. Because I think if you can do that, if you can limit that, again, you're going to have the opportunity to get after the quarterback. You trust your guys in the secondary to hold up, to do their jobs enough to where the Giants, even if they do, and they have some receivers too, but even if they do connect on a big player, 2, 3 throughout the course of the game, that they're not going to be able to do that consistently from obvious passing situations where they're going to put up a ton of points on you. To me, that's the game I would want to play, rather than, all right, let's hang back, let's protect against the big pass, and then you're a man short in the gaps up front. There's opportunities in the quick passing game to pick up open space, yards after the catch. Like, be the aggressor in this situation. And to, as I do on the show, as to take some of that burden off of Joe Barry, Matt LaFleur again said on Sunday after the game that, because again, Isaiah Pacheco obviously found success on the ground. He goes, we were out there, and you could see it from the press box. We were out there in cover 1. It's not as if they always sit back in this cover 2 and there were assignments, there were gaps being missed. Like, these are still fundamental issues that this defensive front is experiencing. And a product of it is, we talk about the youth on offense, but you got 2 day 3 rookies who are playing, close to starting level snaps along your defensive front. You've had rotations because of injuries at the linebacker position where Isaiah McDuffie has absolutely filled in well. Eric Wilson, when called upon, has too, but like, those are not, experienced players, and there are things that are being missed in that capacity. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. I want to see that more aggressive approach from Joe Barry to limit the run game, but the players too have to be more sound in what their assignments are. And Jerry Montgomery spoke to us today, and he said this the last 2 times he's been at the podium. What they're missing along that defensive front is when and the offense was missing this for a long portion too. When a guy makes a mistake, there isn't that other player to help cover it up.
Right.
Like they just don't have that along their front seven right now. And so when a mistake's made, the mistake is made and they've been getting gashed for it. So players obviously have to be more fundamentally assignment sound. I want to see a more aggressive defense from Joe Barry. He's showing, even this season that he'll make those adjustments after that Lions game, where they lost, gave up the huge yardage, went into the Raiders game that next week. Like even with Devontae Adams on the opposite sidelines, like, but you're going up against Jimmy Garoppolo, uses a lot of short area throws. Like we saw him condense the field to, try to limit the Raiders in that capacity and limit the run game. So he's shown that he can do it. I want to see him do it in this one as well. And one other topic while we're on the defensive side of the ball, we're talking about the pass rush. Preston Smith, he's been flying under the radar this season in terms of, his contributions, his production. And I just wanted to give a quick little story. I asked Jason Rebrovich, the edge rushers coach today. I said, from the outside perspective, we always hear about Rashawn Gary. We always hear about Lucas Van Ness, but Preston Smith's having a heck of a season. What have you seen from Preston? And in short, he went on for, it was probably a good 2 minutes that he sat and answered that question. And about 80-90% of it was just talking about Preston Smith's leadership, what he brings to that room, what he brings on the field. And Rebrovich barely even talked about from the production standpoint, from the play standpoint. Obviously that stuff's coming, but he just went on and on and on about his ability as a leader. And he goes, he's been in the league 9 years, which I think, I guess I'll speak for myself. I feel like we may forget about sometimes, but he is very much a veteran. Rebrovich said, the guys in that position group lean on him, look to him, and he goes, hey, sometimes I do as well. He's got the experience. So I just wanted to throw that little nugget in there because I feel like Preston Smith's season is very much flying under the radar. And, these coaches, when they get asked questions by us, they, depending on the question, can be shorter, can be longer, but Rebrovich was very, very happy to go on and on and on about Preston Smith and his leadership that he brings to this team.
I love it. Yeah, I love the comment he made too during that presser where he talked about the out of bounds. Have never missed a tackle, right? And being able to use that to your advantage, it's absolutely huge. It's why it's so important for the center of that defense. Whether it's nose to three tech, middle linebacker, free safety, whoever's patrolling deep there in that cover three when you do play spinner out of quarters. It's just so important because you can really use that boundary to your advantage. There's no doubt about that. I know Jennifer here in the chat before we let you go, she says, release the beast Quadzilla. We're going to release him right here, Paul.
John Deere green on a hot summer night. He rode Billy Bob the Charlene.
It doesn't get any better than that, Paul. I could watch it 1,000 times. My man knew every word to Joe Diffie, and he wasn't reading a script. You got to love it. Can I share one
quick AJ Dillon story from Sunday?
Absolutely, yeah, man.
All right, so in the locker room after the game, because prior to the season, and I probably talked about it on here, but his point of emphasis was lower pad level, and so I asked him about that. How do you go about practicing that? And again, this was in training camp, and he answered it, and it led into the conversation of the emphasis for him this year is rather than trying to be perfect, which was his mindset last season, he's trying to be dominant. And that perfect mentality, I know for anyone out there who's been on the football field or just sports in general on the court, when you're out there and you're overthinking, you're not letting your practice, your natural abilities take over. That's sometimes when you can slow down. And I know Ben Sermons, the running back coach, has talked about that as well, that he just wants to see those natural abilities of AJ Dillon's take over. So anyway, I followed up with Dillon, paraphrasing that question to him. I said, what's led you to, have this more dominant streak over the last month? And, for him, it's been about mentality. And what he meant by that was, one, just taking it day by day, not worrying about what next week holds, not worrying about, what that second contract might look like. And also, and here's the what I thought was a funny story. He goes, I've never worn eye black in my life, high school, college, NFL. But before the Lions game, he saw a TikTok video. And racing horses, how they have the blinders on to block out the crowd, horses around them, blocks out everything around them. He said before that Lions game, took eye black, put it on just like blinders as his, as his metaphor for what he's trying to accomplish. Block it all out, focus on what's in front of you, and attack what's ahead of you as well. So I just thought that was a really cool story, kind of bringing together where his point of emphasis was during summer, during training camp, and then just what he's doing now to find that mindset. And again, we're seeing that success from him on the football field.
That's absolutely awesome. Some people probably roll their eyes when you hear that. I love that type of stuff. And whatever you got to do to get juice, to get in the right mindset to go out there. And I love what you said. Forget trying to be perfect. Let's be dominant. And if that's the type of back he is. I mean, here of lately, I love watching him run. He didn't do anything just out of this world last week, right? But what I noticed was every inch that was on that field, he took it. He got it. He was able to get every bit of it there. He didn't leave anything on the field, and he's been a pleasant surprise in the passing game as well. Really, just cranking it up there. That's something that you could tell he's worked on. So right here, guys, I'm going to highlight a comment real quick if I can find it. Bang, right there. Really cool article that Paul wrote. Make sure you go check it out. Here's a screenshot to the tweet he sent out for it too. Just talking about the versatility there that was embedded within the skill sets of the Packers skill position players that they saw on full display against the Chiefs. Awesome article. Make sure you guys go check that out over at Packers Wire. Paul, we can't thank you enough, buddy. It's always a blast talking ball with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Clayton. Always enjoy it as well.
Yeah, have a great night, bud. Stay warm.
You too.
All right. That was Paul Brettel, the great Paul Brettel. Always good stuff there, man. I love some of the things he said there. First of all, about Preston Smith's leadership. You could just tell the guys look up to Preston Smith. And what's cool is if you were to look at the PFF grades, I'll pull up the nickel defense here real quick. If you look at Preston Smith, 71.2, he's grading out as the 44th best edge defender in the league, which is phenomenal. I mean, you're talking about that is starting quality. Anything above 64, you're grading out as a starter, right? Opposite Rashawn Gary. And I think that many times we overlook the fact that one of the reasons Rashawn Gary is having so much success is because Preston Smith just kind of provides that two in the 1-2 punch, if you will, of Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. And it's really cool to see LVN rotate in and out as well, because when you've got a stable of 3 pass rushers, just like we seen with the Smith brothers when they drafted Gary, it's something that it's going to keep people fresh. And I know people, Packer fans, they don't like to acknowledge the fact that there's such a heavy rotation in the edge room on Sundays. But man, when you think about it, somebody's sitting over there on the bench for just a second, getting a breather, getting some oxygen, getting some water, and that offensive lineman's having to work, and you got Preston Smith and LVN leaning against him, and then all of a sudden here comes Gary and bang, hit him in the mouth. Just absolutely awesome what he said about Preston Smith's leadership, though. I hope he's around for years to come. We now bring in Tim live in Green Bay. Tim, everybody's talking about you got a heat wave up there this evening, man. Is it pretty nice in Green Bay tonight?
Yeah, pretty mild, man. It's almost like spring kind of weather out of nowhere, just in time for a little rain, snow mix this weekend and, 30s and 20s. So typical Wisconsin, nothing new over here.
The only thing that what is it? The only thing that stays the same is everything changes constantly.
That's right.
That's right. You got to love it, man. What'd you think of the interview with Paul? I don't know how much you got to hear there, but man, he was on fire tonight. Even with my bad connection here, linking up with him, dude, he just straight to the point, just does a phenomenal job covering the Packers, dude. What a blessing it is to have him to read his writing. What'd you think of what he had to say, man?
Yeah, I like the story there at the end about AJ Dillon. With the eye black and, whatever you got to do, man, to get in the zone, and changing your mentality can, work wonders, and not just in football, but in anything, anything in life, really. And we see it, we talk about pad level. We talked about that during training camp, and Paul's right. That was a point of emphasis, but that's more of like a technical attribute of your skill set or things you need to do as a running back in the NFL. Changing your mindset from trying to be perfect to just being dominant. That's the kind of shift you want to have, and we're seeing it. I believe we're going to get at least one of those performances out of AJ Dillon before it's all said and done. I think we're going to see over 100 yards on the ground, maybe a tutter or two type of game. And, he's also proven to be an asset catching the football in the passing game too. So, shout out to A.J. Dillon, man, because he's really been a rock for this Packers offense. And Paul Brettel hit it right on the head. You don't have success in the play action passing game without some sort of a run game. That defense has got to believe you're capable and willing to run the ball. And A.J. Dillon, has certainly been a constant in this offense so far, especially as of late. So really happy with his production.
Definitely. And it's cool to see him cut loose, do a little farming too after a big dub. You know what I'm saying? That corn farm's a little bit easier after you get a big win against the defending Super Bowl champs. That's for sure. Zane Strong in the chat said, "Is it possible that Watson plays this game?" Let's kind of dive into that, Zane. I'm glad you asked, man. Looks like you've been reading the show notes here. So here's what we've got. Obviously, limited information. I'm going to try to pull up the actual injury report here in a second while Tim says something smart. But Ryan Wood tweeted out, Christian Watson indicated it's unlikely he'll be able to play Monday night versus the Giants. Made it clear he wants to be on the field as quickly as possible, but the hamstring will likely need more time. And, immediately people go, he's soft, he's fragile, he's made all this BS that people say on Twitter, right? The tough guys. Ryan Wood went on to say in that tweet, or maybe he quote tweeted that tweet. He said, Christian Watson says he's spent, quote, tens of thousands of dollars consulting medical experts on injury prevention. General consensus, he says, is strengthening his back so his hamstring doesn't overcompensate. He's hopeful more well-balanced distribution will avoid reoccurring injuries. So the people that pretend like there's nothing he's doing, he's not doing his part, he's whatever BS excuse you want to come up with, he's spending tens of thousands of his own money to try to do everything he can to maximize the amount of time he's on the field to prevent these hamstring injuries. I just thought that was really cool right there, that little bit that Ryan Wood brought to the table. And then another tweet that went out from Rob Demovsky said, Packers wide receiver Christian Watson said he does not believe this hamstring injury is as severe as the one that kept him out for the first 3 games of the season, but he doesn't know if playing Monday night against the Giants is doable. So if you take Christian's own words, granted, it may be him being the competitor that he is and wanting to be on the team, be on the field with his teammates. He may be, thinking a little too positive right here. But if you were to take his words as gospel, I think 1 to 3 games is probably a pretty fair assumption or prediction on how long he may be out. So I don't want him to march out there on Monday Night Football. Listen, if we can't beat the Giants, and I know any given Sunday there's no slam dunk win, in no way, shape, or form am I saying we're going to boat race the Giants. They could come out and surprise us bigger than anything. But if there was a game that I'd say, look, let's let that thing heal up, it's probably that Giants game. Because the last thing we want to happen is march him out there, hurt it, injure him for the year, us get the win, go into the playoffs without our number 1 wide receiver, at least our number 1 kind of deep threat, jump ball, 6'4" receiver. Tim, what do you think about Christian Watson, though, there, man? Probably not going on Monday, right?
No, and I think it's probably a smart decision, kind of like what we're doing here, with Aaron Jones off and on since, the original hamstring issue that he had, and then now this new knee issue. You've got time here, and it's easier to make a decision like this. See, Jake Shavink reading my mind right here. Just want Watson to be ready for Vikings and the Bears. There you go. That's it right there in a nutshell. And you know what? It's easier to say that. Like, go ahead and let him do this. Let him do the back strengthening exercises. Whatever this program that he's going to get on here now that he spent his own hard-earned money there to figure it out, which is great. Let him do that. That takes time, right? Heal up and strengthen what you got to strengthen, and then come back for Vikings and Bears, because I feel better making that decision knowing that we have Dontavian Wicks, we have Malik Heath, we have Jaden Reed, we have Romeo Dobbs, we have pass catching tight ends, we have pass catching running backs. I think we're going to be okay against the Giants, and that's taking into consideration your point too, Clayton, because you're right. This game, I'm not going to say makes me nervous, but it's one that I really hope they don't sleep on. You can't just think you're going to walk in here and waltz out with a win. Everyone's got to execute. But with Scoop Man being down, I think we've got the personnel to step up in a pinch. Paul hit it on the head too. He talked about the versatility of this offense.
Yeah,
it's time to see it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Jennifer Wright says, I love Scoot. Since I watched his college tape, I feel horrible for him. Same thing here, man, because you can tell when he's on the field, watching him celebrate for his teammates too, while he's on the field, while they're scoring a tutter, even when he was at his lowest point this year, you can tell a lot about a player with the joy that they show in their teammates succeeding, even when they're in a slump. Just says so much about his character. There's no doubt about that. Let's see here. Carly Ray in the chat says, my take on Watson, I am not so sure. He is being super careful with what he says. Maybe doesn't want to give anything away like earlier. Completely makes sense for sure, Carly. Again, it definitely isn't worth it to try to read into what they say, but I just can't help myself, Tim. I'm in love with this football team, and I want every little bit of information I can find. There's no doubt about that. This right here, I completely agree, Paul.
Yeah.
Watson's so damn fast, his legs can't handle his motor. It's so true. It's so true because when you think about the torque, the amount of pressure you're putting on those joints, and I think of the offensive lineman all the time too, like all that weight and another guy that size, you're talking about over 600 pounds hitting at the same exact time in the same 2 feet of space, right? And the amount of torque on the joints and everything. When you talk about a receiver like Watson and the amount of stress he puts on his hamstring, I mean, it's just a part of the game. It's going to happen, right? And that's why we got to be, as fans, we got to be much better. I know nobody in here does it, but we got to be way better at calling those other fans out when they start with the soft and the made of glass comments and all that stuff, knowing that they're sitting at the house on the couch with the Cheeto stains on their whitey tidies. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. So let's do this. Let's get kind of a little update on our boy Aaron Jones. This is another one that's a little bit, we're kind of keeping our eye on. Rob Domofsky tweeted out, Aaron Jones, who has missed the last 2 games because of an MCL knee injury, has returned to practice. There was 3 did not participate, obviously. Christian Watson, Quay Walker, and Darnell Savage. Not sure what's up with Darnell Savage. Like I said, I'll pull the injury report here in just a second. All played last Sunday. Watson had the hamstring injury. Savage came out briefly and returned. So maybe that's more preventative than anything for Darnell because, Tim, man, we talked about it. Darnell had a heck of a game, man. Best game of the season. If he's going to come out and continue to play like that, man, I want to see him on the field. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And this, you guys, you got to remember, like, these are human beings out there, right? So looking at Savage here, this is a great example of like what it takes to just get back, and then to come back and to go hard, and then you have a setback. I mean, it happens. I mean, it's that difficult. It's that physically demanding of a game that it could take you weeks to get back for one Sunday, which could set you back another few weeks. And no team is immune to this. It comes in waves, it seems like, and we as Packer fans, of course, we're going to take it to heart the most, and act like other teams aren't dealing with injuries too. Right. That's just how it is. We care about our guys, first and foremost. So, man, I feel a little bit better than I did prior to the season about our safety room, even with the injuries, and also with, the way Keyshawn Nixon's been playing in the slot and not having to think and entertain too much of the talk about maybe, rolling one of our safeties down into that slot corner role, to help Keyshawn out. I think Keyshawn's been handling his duties pretty well. And, I think there's some depth, in the safety room, especially with Ant Johnson, once he cleans up some of these, rookie mistakes that he's been making, which I know is coming. And, man, injuries are tough. I mean, we're not immune. No team's immune.
Absolutely. Carly Ray said, we have to read into what they say. They can't say anything straight out, LOL. Today, Matt asked the reporter if he wanted the whole game plan. I love this new Matt LaFleur, bro. He said, well, you want me to lay out the whole game plan for you there, Hosscat? Is that what you're looking for? I love it, man. I love angry Matt LaFleur for sure. Here's the injury report. Bang. All right. Jair Alexander, limited. Devondre Campbell, limited. Josiah DeGuara, full participation. A.J. Dillon, limited. Rashawn Gary, limited. Elton Jenkins, limited. Aaron Jones, limited. Keyshawn Nixon, full participation. Evidently, he had a little bit of a wrist injury there. Jonathan Owens, limited. Jaden Reed, limited with the chest. We all know he's going to play. Darnell Savage did not participate. Getting emotional over Savage. That's that pepper jack kicking me in the throat right now. Let's see. Darnell Savage has a chest injury. So I think that did carry over, they said, from the game. So he did not participate. I'm sure we'll get a better read on that. But if he's out again tomorrow, probably a good chance he might not be ready to go by Monday. But it is nice having that extra day to heal up too, Tim. But Eric Stokes, hamstring, full participation. Quay Walker, shoulder injury, did not participate. Christian Watson did not participate, obviously. Devontae Wyatt did not, or was limited in participation. So if you took the did not participates and said, hey, these guys aren't playing, I'm not suggesting that's the case. I'm just saying, like, kind of worst case scenario here for those guys, you would be missing Savage, Quay Walker, and Christian Watson. It sucks, but I think we can make do. If Savage isn't in the lineup, these safeties have proven that they can be adequate, right? And kind of hold down the fort while those starters are out. Christian Watson's going to hurt a lot, but at the same time, you're probably leaning on 12 a little bit more if you don't have Christian Watson out there. Although, me, march out 10, I'm all about it. But it was cool seeing the versatility, man, in this offense, Tim, which kind of leads me to this little graphic since we're on the point. Check this out. So this was from Packers.com. The Packers Twitter account tweeted this out and said, with his score in Week 13, Ben Sims joins Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft as the first rookie tight end trio in team history to each register a touchdown reception in a season. Per the Elias Sports Bureau, the Packers are the first team in the Super Bowl era to have three rookie tight ends score a touchdown in the same season, their rookie season. That's pretty wild, man. You're talking about 1965, Tim. Since 1965, the first team to have three rookie tight ends score a touchdown. That's wild, man.
I love it. And, Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims are going to get a couple more before it's all said and done, for sure. Musgrave, it's just unfortunate, him being on IR. But what a great season from these guys contributing and helping right the ship. Let's be honest, it was looking pretty bleak there. You dropped 4 games in a row. And, these guys, Sims included, and Tucker Kraft, very instrumental in helping us turn things around, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen Smith in the chat says, in regards to these injuries now, we all must realize the damn weather in these outdoor games. Get well. They're another game next week, and we still got Vikings and Bears yet. Yeah, I just want to absolutely boat race the Bears in that last week of the season. That's why I'm thinking about going to that game. I just want to see them, absolutely slaughter them. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little petty, Tim, but they talk so much crap in the offseason. So if you guys are following me on Twitter, I'm usually the nice guy. I went in pretty hard on the Bears this week, the Bears fans, I should say, but
they do still suck. So
yeah, they do. It's true. I've actually got confirmation right here, if I believe so, Tim. Let me double check.
You do?
Let me dig into the archives here just a bit. I think
you got it confirmed, huh?
Yeah. Let's see if this was it.
The Bears still suck.
It's true. The Bears still suck, guys. It is what it is. For those of you watching here on YouTube, do us a favor, hit the like button so other Packer fans can find this channel, find this content. We appreciate you guys spending this Thursday evening with us as the Patriots, believe it or not, are beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 7-3 in the first quarter. Not sure how long that'll last, but there you go. What is this right here? Doug says, Clayton, did you catch Big Cat from Barstool's TikTok rant? Like Eric said, it was epic. Holy cow. Now y'all going to make me dig. Is there a language? I need to know, is there language, Doug? Because if there's language, it's got to be language, right? It's Big Cat, right, Tim?
Talk about, like, arguably.
Did you watch it, Tim?
He's probably my least. I don't know who I don't like more, Big Cat or Taylor Swift. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not a big Cat fan there. No, I missed that one.
Well, Doug in the chat says Big Cat went off on the Packers getting J Love. We might want. I think I'm going to dig in and see if I can find that as we're hitting some other topics here. I think that's something that needs to happen because, again, like I said, man, there's nothing like watching. It'd be different if they kept their mouths shut. That's why it was so easy on the Lions forever because their fans were just like, it was pitiful. They were beaten down for it seemed like 173 years, right? And now all of a sudden they got the team, they're getting loud. I'm like, okay, you guys want to be fair game now too. I got you. Here we go. Let's step into the ring here. Let's talk about pressures for a second. This is a cool thing that PFF Green Bay Packers tweeted out at PFF_Packers. Most quarterback pressures this season on the Packers roster. Rashawn Gary, 41. Kenny Clark, 41. Devontae Wyatt, 30. Preston Smith, 30. Carl Brooks, 19. pretty good numbers there, especially considering how many snaps they've kept Rashawn Gary out of the lineup both early and here of late. You know, we pointed out there's kind of a little bit heavier rotation there a couple weeks ago. Pretty cool stuff here from the pass rush unit. And I'm telling you, Tim, it played right into our hands with how the Chiefs just refused to stick with the run. You know, thank God they chose to do that, and it's something they're going to continue to do. That's how their offense has always operated. I remember last year Greg Cosell talking about it on a podcast, saying, you know, people are just going to play the Chiefs, you know, play them to stop the pass because they're not going to commit to the run. It's just something they're not going to do, and it's how can you knock them? It's worked, but it caught up with them there Sunday night in Green Bay, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's why it's so important to shift gears here because, you know, like Paul was talking about, you know, the Giants are going to try and run the ball. I mean, you know, they got Saquon Barkley. They're gonna try and run on us. And it's important, like Paul said, to put them in situations where they need to pass so we can, you know, tee off on them with our secondary, so to speak. But, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say, you know, maybe – use this as a game to rest multiple guys, maybe give guys, you know, we talk about Preston Smith and his, you know, veteran status, you know, maybe this is an LVN game and maybe we see some of the younger guys get a little bit more action in this one and some of the older veterans maybe get a bit of a rest. But what the heck do I know, right? I'm just, just watching here from the comfort of home. I don't know, but, yeah, man, it's going to be exciting to see this front continue to grow because, you know, we are very young, especially up front. So,
yeah, definitely. Paul Robertson in the chat says 1A, he hates Taylor Swift. 1B, Big Cat.
I don't listen too much Taylor Swift.
Yeah, so I don't think Paul does either. Paul hasn't bought an album in years.
Hate's a strong word. I don't know about hate.
Hate is a strong word. You're right, man. Hate is a strong word.
Highly annoyed. That's a little better. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Big Cat, not Taylor Swift.
Oh, darn. JK in the chat says, one game at a time, Clayton. I love your enthusiasm, though. One game at a time. Don't tell me what to do, Jay.
Who do you think you are? I am.
You see that down stretch we had early in the year, bro? We need to celebrate a bit. We need some healing. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. No, I completely understand what you're saying there. It's just the hate for the rivals is it's something that it's never going to go away, never going to be minimized, at least in my opinion. Now, you guys have heard me talk about, you know, positions on tier of importance, right? And on the defensive side of the ball, Tim, I know you've heard me say edge defender, right? Edge defender is top tier, and interior defensive lineman. You need at least one good edge defender, and you need that guy that can play a 3 to a 5 tech if you need him to, someone who can play nose in a pinch, but mainly create pressure on the interior of that defensive line as well as playing the run really well, right? Tier 2, I say middle linebacker and free safety, and people immediately go, you don't have corner as a tier? I really don't. I don't. To me, it's like I said, tier 1, edge, interior defensive lineman. Tier 2 is middle linebacker and free safety. And the thought process there is the majority of the time you're going to be playing some kind of single high or at least a middle quarter deep zone with that free safety. And the reason I've always looked at it that way, and many other people have as well, is because your greatest asset on defense is the out of bounds. Period. Case closed. It's why our red zone defense has been so well, because when teams get down there in the red zone, they now have to worry about the back line becoming that defender as well. Well, one of the coaches today, pass rush specialist Jason Rebrovich, said, according to Wes Hodkiewicz there in the presser, he said, quote, "The surest tackler in America is the sideline. He's never missed one." I thought that was such a brilliant tweet, Tim. The sideline has never missed a tackle. And that's why it's important if you build the strength of your defense right down the center of it. Ideally, it doesn't mean you pass up on an elite or a generational talent at another position. It's just you got to kind of build that nucleus right there in the middle of the field. How do you feel about that? I thought that was a really cool quote from Jason Rebrovich.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the 12th defender, right? For sure. You know, and you scheme guys to play that way. You know, you want guys to understand. And that's why knowing where you are, you know, positionally on the field is so important. You know, we talked about Keyshawn's, would-be interception a few weeks ago where, you know, he just didn't quite get the toes down. And, you know, sometimes you run out of real estate. Well, it's just same thing for those receivers. That's why we talk about leverage in different ways that you're going to play a man based on what route you think they're running or what concept they're trying to pull off on you. And yeah, I'll tell you, the sidelines are a great defender, and so is the back of the end zone when you're in red zone defense. Sometimes you can flush a receiver back into no man's land, and he just runs out of room. And it's just, playing smart football really is what it is.
Definitely. Stephen Smith in the chat says, play smart, just like you said, Tim. Remember, DeVito ain't too bad either, and the family will be close. Hey, right here. You know what I'm saying? I love that celebration, by the way. Absolutely love that celebration. I always root for the underdog. Not this Monday night, though. No way, no how. Cheesehead Murph in the chat says, let's give kudos to Kenny Clark. We were talking tough on Kenny earlier in the season, and he has turned it around. He has the biggest turnaround too, Murph. He's gotten pressure on the quarterback all year, but that run defense is really starting to settle down, right? And that's what you're wanting to see out of Kenny, especially with a player with that high of a cap hit. But you're exactly right, man. We were very hard on him. I should say I was very hard on Kenny early in the year because it's like, man, that is a ton of cap room to be tied up in someone who's not playing the run that well, right? Yeah. The reason being is the thought process is you could split that cap up and get a really good pass rush, a really good not elite, but a really good pass rusher at the interior defensive line. And then in that other two down lineman set in your nickel, have a really good run defender for less cap than going into one player, which we all know you're one injury away from losing that player, for sometimes the season. But yeah, you're exactly right, Murph. He is kind of reemerged as one of the leaders on this team on the field. He's always been one off it, but he has just been a force here lately. Remember Chalk Talk, Tim? Us watching him hitting that guard and that guard head banging all the way back, man. He wreaked havoc on Sunday night, dude.
Yeah, Murph's absolutely right with this because, we talked about going into the year what Kenny was doing during camp with the guys staying late and, working with these younger defensive linemen. And, it can be a daunting task when you've got your own career and trajectory and your own job that you got to worry about too. And, it can be a little bit of an adjustment when you're put into that leadership role and you're having to take on some of these other responsibilities. And, there was some off the field stuff with Kenny too, a lot of changes in his life personally. We know the story of his father getting to see him play pro ball, for the first time. And, there's a lot that goes into what the grind is of being an NFL defensive lineman. And now, Murph's right. He's turning it around. He's executing. Getting that hand up, batting those balls at the line, right? We're seeing more effective play in the run game. And like you said, Clayton, man, he's just refusing to be blocked. He's getting off the blocks. That's something we talked about when we were watching film, is that he was just getting blocked out of plays. And it's like, Kenny's a big, strong dude. And if he's finishing plays and he's playing with that ferocity and he's playing with that intensity, this is what you see. You're going to see results. You're going to see the dip and rip. You're going to see the, well, if I can't get around you, I'll just take you with me and we'll go meet at the quarterback. I always love those when he's just, shoving that guard or that tackle right into his own man. So, yeah, I think Kenny is coming along really nicely. And again, this is great when you're making a playoff push here to close out your season. So,
yeah, absolutely. Eric Sutherland in the chat said, Murph, I had to apologize to every player this year. You sound like me, Eric. Been rough on them all, that's for sure. SDN40 in the chat says, vintage Giants made 11 winning rings with strong defensive lines. They absolutely – you look around the league today, SDN, and defensive lines, the better teams, the best teams in the league, they've got a stout defensive lineman at defensive front. You can't minimize it, especially when you've got a combo of someone who can play a wide 9 and someone who can play a 4-eye and force those ISO blocks like we've seen Kenny and Gary do there a couple times on Chalk Talk. That was definitely one of the approaches they took in getting pressure on Mahomes. It was absolutely awesome seeing them get that much pressure on him for sure. Paul Robertson in the chat said, Giants have nothing to lose. It's a great point, Paul. They're kind of playing with the house's money right now, right? And people say, oh, well, they're not playing to win. They're playing for next year. Those players are playing to win. They're playing for their career, man. The front office may take an approach like, okay, look, this season's over. Let's let the young guys play. We're okay with losing, quote unquote, losing to get people experience and maybe a little bit better draft pick. those players aren't thinking like that, especially the guys on the 1 and 2 year deals, because we all know you can have 2 or 3 years left on a deal, and you're pretty much in a contract year, the way that contracts are typically structured in the National Football League. So,
or if you're a young rookie trying to earn your way into this league, can you imagine? Hey, we want you to just kind of tank so we can get we can draft another guy to replace you next year. You know, like these guys they're not going to throttle down just because you know, even if a team did want them to tank, you know, I would go balls to the wall all the time, right? You gotta.
Absolutely. Like you said, man, it's like, yeah, go out there and ruin your career and your next contract so we can get a better draft pick. I promise you that player isn't going, okay, yeah, sounds good. Sounds like a plan, coach. Oh, there.
Yeah.
That's how you get trade requests too, right?
Right. Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Either trade me or because I'm just going to keep coming out here every week making you look stupid.
Exactly. Cheesehead Murph says Jonathan Owens is the one for me, and Keyshawn is too. Yeah, man. There's a lot of players stepping up for sure that we were critical on early in the year. There's no doubt. Chris in the chat said I was busting Kenny's chops too damn much. Join the club, my friend. Join the club. And let's see here. SDN in the chat says just can't let the Giants hang around. Get up early. That was the big difference with the Kansas City game, Tim. You know, we had them chasing their tail the entire game. It's going to be absolutely huge up there in the swamps of Jersey to do that as well. And like Doug says here, Wink Martindale always seems to dial up tough schemes. That's another thing, man. When you look at coordinator versus coordinator, look at the game that we played them last year, right? I feel like we scored a lot of points, if I remember correctly. I think we scored over 20 points. It was just there was a ton of busted coverage. I specifically remember that. That was one of the first chalk talks where I got very animated because people on Twitter were saying, look how soft they're playing. I'm going, Savage blew a freaking coverage, and his guys running butt naked through the trailer park. Has nothing to do with the play call. I specifically remember that. And I also remember leaving Kentucky on the road from a Kentucky-South Carolina game, and I'm watching on my phone. I was like, man, they seem to have this one in the bag. Like they're playing good. They look like, all right, we're going to get this dub. And then we got out at a rest stop, kind of an overlook, took some pictures, just kind of enjoyed the scenery for a minute, got back in the car, and I went, what the heck happened? What just happened here? It can happen in a blink. And that matchup you're looking at now is Matt LaFleur versus Wink Martindale, right? Because, I always say Matt LaFleur's the OC over Stenovich because, Matt's got his hand all over this offense. He's a play caller, all that. So if you look in the most recent past, Matt LaFleur hasn't matched up well against Wink Martindale. So it's definitely something to watch out for, although Matt seems to be on a little bit of a revenge tour here of lately, Tim. He's kind of coming in taking no prisoners here in the past weeks.
Yeah, I love it. We haven't seen shucks Matt LaFleur anymore. He's nowhere to be found. I love it. Definitely. We got chip on his shoulder, Matt LaFleur.
No,
even when I saw him by the facility a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Hey, coach," and he was like, "What?" That was his response. "What? I'm busy." I love it, man. Like you got to have some sort of an attitude, man, in this league if you want to find some success. Being buddy with everyone all the time is not the surefire way to get it done. You got to have an edge to you, and it's nice to see Matt LaFleur settling in here. As a head coach now. Now he's comfortable as a head coach for sure in this league.
Yeah, man. As we get ready to wrap up, Tim, we were out today running around in town after Good Morning Lambeau. We got out and did a little bit of shopping, and we went to Carrabba's for lunch. And we're sitting in the back corner in a booth, eating our lunch. This old man walks up to me. He looks like he's probably in his 70s. He's got kind of this look on his eye. He walks up to me and he points his finger at me. And I'm going, am I have to break this guy's hip? And he said, y'all snuck up on us. And I was like, what? And he was like, your team beat my team this past week. And he pointed at my jersey. He was pointing at my jersey saying, y'all snuck up on it. Or my shirt. I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, so you're a Chiefs fan. Really cool dude, man. Probably. He said he'd been a fan since 1969. So it was just awesome to get to talk to him. So we leave there after getting way too full on Carrabba's bread and oil and all that good stuff. The stuffed mushrooms are perfect. Yep. We go over to Sam's Club, and I'm telling you, as soon as we go to walk out of Sam's Club, this old man walks by me. Guess what he does? He literally points at me. Dude, probably in his 60s, points at me, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. He said, they better win Monday. I got money on it. And he walked off. I was like, man, everybody's wanting to talk about the Packers right now. It's funny how that happens when you win a few games, though, man.
Yep. We talked about this when they were down. We talked about watch the narrative switch. As soon as things start clicking and J Money puts things together, right? Getting the ball out on time, right? Trusting his reads, all the things we're seeing, and lo and behold, here's the narrative switch, right?
Yeah. Larry in the chat said Giants seem to be one of those teams we always struggle with, physical run philosophy. Absolutely. It's something that's kind of embedded into that organization, has been for a long time, Larry. It's a very good observation, buddy. Eric Sutherland said, I had Chipotle for the first time today. Eric, what'd you think about it, man? Because everybody talked to me like Chipotle was just a godsend. And I'm telling you, man, I've been there like 2 or 3 times now. Every time, I'm not very hard to please when it comes to food either. I'm a fatty, bro. It is what it is. But I haven't liked it. Unless, of course, they want to sponsor the show. I love it. I'm telling you. Best. I'm telling you right now. But I always feel like I'm cheating on Taco Bell when I go to Chipotle. You know what I'm saying?
You're cheating on Taco Bell.
I seen a meme one time. It said, some of y'all forgot like Taco Bell didn't used to feed y'all for $3 over there hanging out at Chipotle.
Yeah, it's true. Used
Very
to though,
true.
right? Not anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I bet you the price is pretty close. I mean, it can't be that different at this point, right? With the way things are. Right.
Absolutely. SD in the chat say keep a bathroom nearby. Chipotle comes and then it goes. You know what I'm saying? Let's see here. What else we got? Paul Robertson said, if Clayton keeps eating all of this, he's going to blow up like Mark Towser. Man, I'm telling you right now, boys, I have packed on the weight since doing this podcast, and I blame each and every damn one of you. It's your fault.
Okay? I'm just packing it on for winter, man. It's just, winter time. It's getting cold.
I'm telling you, I'm getting old, Tim. I got to get rid of it quick. Carly Ray says, anyone remember who shared the Sports Illustrated article about Packers being the luckiest team in the league? Yeah, Carly was mentioning that earlier in the chat. We need to find it, Carly. Someone shared it earlier. I can't remember who it was. Who was it that shared that earlier today? Because I know she's got the article. I can't remember who it was, Carly. But, yeah. All right, let's get out of here, Paul or Tim. Let's see.
Whoever the heck it is, right?
Yeah, somebody here. I thought Paul said something there. No, that was a Mark Towser comment. Parting thoughts, Tim, as we get ready to get out of here, buddy.
I'm excited. Monday Night Football is always a treat. For sure. And, third primetime kind of game here in a row, right? Big Thanksgiving Day game. You got Sunday Night Football now, onto the road for a game against a, like we all pretty much agree on, a team we can't take for granted. Really, any of these last few games here, we can't take for granted. So just hope the boys are focused and ready to roll and, look for some of our depth here to step up in this game. I'm watching the depth chart, with a magnifying glass right now to really see who's going to be inserted into some of these roles and asked to contribute on Monday night. So looking forward to seeing some of the young guys show up and show out. This could be a, if we got no Scoot, this could be a Malik Heath, Tay Wicks, Jaden Reed kind of show. So it'll be fun.
Definitely. David Carlson in the chat said, I've been a Packers fan since 1966. Go Pack, go. Hey, we appreciate you holding that banner up for us during the dark years there, man, in the 70s and 80s there, David. We appreciate you being a fan, man. It's people like you that kept this thing going when we weren't even a twinkle in our papa's eye, as they say, right? Carly Ray says, I want to give credit because I want to talk about it tomorrow morning, talking about on Good Morning Lambeau about the SI article. Yeah, if anybody knows, put in the chat or comment or just hit Carly up on Twitter with who it was so we can give them credit. But I'm looking forward to talking about that too, Carly. Deadfish in the chat said the Giants are at negative 133 in points differential, 31st in the league. Holy cow. 1 point ahead of the Commanders. Not that means a lot. Just beat the Giants. Yeah. I don't even want to know that stat, Deadfish, but makes me, I can't lie. It does make me feel a little bit better. But as soon as you start thinking about stuff like that, though, you know what happens.
Yep.
Carly Ray says, awesome. Murph, better get up for Good Morning Lambeau tomorrow. Everybody be up and ready. It's going to be a good one for sure. Thank Carly. It's pretty much confirmed she's going to join us for that, Tim. So we'll get up and talk a little ball with a cup of Joe, a little diesel tomorrow morning. Really appreciate everybody hanging out in the chat with us. Want to give a special thanks to Paul Brettel for taking time out of his busy schedule to hop on here and deal with my nonsense, but always good information from him. Tim, thank you for your time, buddy. I want to give a special thanks again to Chris Hand for the super chat, man. We really appreciate you supporting the stream. And for those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. We really appreciate it. Again, want to mention one more time here before we give this autographed jersey away from last week's contest. XA Drew, we still haven't heard from. CL Freeman, we still haven't heard from. If we don't hear from them, we're going to give it to Jeff Z, because I got criticized for not pronouncing his name correctly earlier by Mr. Jim Tyson, which I used to pronounce his name wrong too. You guys are catching on to a theme here. You hear the accent, you shouldn't expect me to pronounce anything correctly. All right.
So they've got till tomorrow, right?
Yeah, if we don't hear from them by I'd say by Good Morning Lambeau tomorrow, we'll just go ahead and get that mailed out to Jeff. So I think that'd be the best thing to do. And keep in mind, for anyone who's a YouTube member, right, you can join our YouTube group. We're going to be giving away an autographed Robert Brooks jersey this coming Monday night during the post-game show, somewhere around 2 or 3 a.m. I'm sure, Tim. It's going to be a late one, but it's going to be a late one. That's all right. We'll plan around it, man. So with that being said, guys, we're out of here. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. For those of you, like I said, listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go back up.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Come to tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man to his inside. Pull back and kill him. Take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by him and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the